Welcome to Female Fractionals, the biweekly podcast for successful female fractional executives and those ready to take the leap. In each episode, I'll bring you actionable lessons and inspiration through interviews with thriving fractional leaders and experts. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Female Fractionals. I'm Amanda Nazari, Fractional CMO, and your host of the show. Today's guest is Erika Weiss. Erika is a fractional CMO, founder of Elevated Brand, a boutique marketing consultancy, and an adjunct professor of marketing at Loyola Marymount University's College of Business Administration. Erika is a dynamic consumer marketer, brand builder, and marketing strategist with a career spanning leading global brands and innovative startups in the entertainment, fitness, health and wellness, beauty, and apparel industries. She has held brand marketing and partnership roles at the Walt Disney Studios and 20th Century Fox, where she honed her expertise in building iconic brands. During her decade at the Beachbody Company, Erika played a pivotal role in driving the success of the legendary fitness brand P90X and led the launch of Beachbody's fitness apparel division. She continued her impact in the fitness and wellness space by spearheading marketing for a digital fitness startup and architecting a new health and wellness business vertical at the International Sports and Sciences Association, including the launch of its Yoga and Wellness Academy. Erika's startup experience includes leading marketing for a high-end D2C wellness brand, a beauty brand, and a digital fitness SaaS company, where she developed and executed growth strategies that fueled brand awareness and customer acquisition. In early 2024, Erika founded Elevated Brand, a boutique marketing consultancy, where she serves as a foundational chief marketing officer, specializing in brand development, integrated marketing, and go-to-marketing strategy for fitness, health and wellness, and beauty brands. Beyond consulting, Erika is an adjunct professor of marketing and entrepreneurship at Loyola Marymount University's College of Business Administration in Los Angeles, where she mentors the next generation of marketers and entrepreneurs. Erika graduated magna cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa from Barnard College, Columbia University. She also earned her MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Without further ado, let's jump in. Hi, Erika. Welcome to Female Fractionals. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here as well.
Great. Well, I like to start every episode because I think everyone has such an incredible journey, and I know you have a very interesting journey as well. Could you please start by just sharing a bit about your professional background and just how you got started as a fractional CMO?
Absolutely. So I've spent my entire professional career in consumer marketing. I started out in the entertainment industry at the Walt Disney Company as a brand marketer, and then I moved over to 20th Century Fox. And then as a lifelong athlete and fitness junkie, I moved into the fitness industry and I moved over to the Beachbody Company, where I worked on the iconic P90X franchise. I was at Beachbody for about 10 years and I was laid off in early 2020, which obviously was not the best timing. And that really put me on a bit of a career roller coaster ride for the next several years. At that point in my career, I had always worked on big brands. So I decided to dip a toe into the startup world. And I ended up working for a series of D2C startups in the fitness and the health and wellness industries over the next several years. But given the really unstable nature of startups, I ended up going through a total of 4 layoffs over the course of 4 years. And after my 4th layoff, I just knew that it was time for a change. And up to that point, I hadn't really considered going out on my own as a consultant, because I really craved the so-called stability that comes with having a full-time corporate job. But what I realized, of course, is that that stability was an illusion. So I decided it was really time for me to stop letting circumstances dictate my career and to start building something of my own.
Yeah, lots of lessons learned in those years. And we had talked before we started recording about many of the different lessons in resilience and determination that you learned along the way. Can you share a little bit more about that and just how you overcame some of those challenges and continued on to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start by saying that resilience is my favorite word. It's my mantra. It's part of my ethos now. But so I really realized a couple of important things over the course of that 4-year journey. First, after being at one company for 10 years, I realized that I had become too comfortable in my job and really lax about doing things like actively broadening my network, posting on LinkedIn, keeping my resume up to date. And I realized I never wanted to be in that position again. So I needed to reinvent myself, number one, and I needed to upskill in order to stay relevant. So I adopted a new mantra of always be learning, which I find especially important in marketing as a discipline because it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So I made it a priority to take digital classes, to upskill, to seek out and follow some of the top thought leaders on LinkedIn, to subscribe to marketing and business newsletters, to listen to podcasts, and to just read and learn voraciously. The next thing that I realized is really just how important it is to stay on top of building your network. And I made that a top priority for myself to always seek out, meet, and connect with new people. And I've expanded my network tremendously over this period of time. I wholeheartedly believe in and support the idea that you need to make friends before you need them. And I'm also a huge believer in paying it forward by helping others. And I feel like this is especially true in the fractional world. One thing that I learned really early on is that fractionals help fractionals. And also, another thing I realized is when I look back, I would say 90% of the jobs and opportunities that I've gotten have all been through networking. So you can see how incredibly important it is. And just looking back, I think the biggest through line in my journey, despite all the highs and lows, and trust me, there were plenty of lows, is that I tried to find a lesson in every experience. Every company I worked with, every conversation, even the moments that felt like failures, they all had something to teach me. And that mindset of being open to learning through the messiness has really shaped how I move forward. And realizing that sometimes the toughest roads lead to the best destinations.
Yeah, I think that's critical. It isn't always apparent in the moment. So sometimes that's hard to hear, but at the end of the day, that is a very common truth. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I'm living proof of that. I mean, 4 layoffs, 4 years. And at the end of that now, I am happier than I have ever been.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your definition of fractional, if you would,
Yeah.
because when we first met, it was through a great webinar that was put on by Northwestern, and I really loved how you put a stake in the ground around
Yeah.
a definition of fractional, because I
Mm-hmm.
think there still is so much educating that needs to be done, both within the fractional community, even though we live, eat, breathe it all the time. I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of has their own definition of it, and how they're positioning it to people that are buying our services, but also to educate those that are buying so that it will enable us to price our services in the right way, craft our contracts and arrangements in the right way. So could you please give us your definition of fractional?
Absolutely. So to me, fractional executives are seasoned leaders who provide high-level strategy and execution on a flexible part-time basis. So they help businesses scale, pivot, or optimize without the commitment of or the cost of a full-time hire. So, first of all, they're highly experienced leaders. So, we're talking about people with 10 or more years of expertise in their field, often with a strong track record in leadership or management. Fractionals bring high level strategy while also executing on critical initiatives. They can lead and manage big impact projects. And they're really purpose driven hires who are brought on to solve key business challenges and to work on specific projects. And I think one of the most important things is that they are embedded in the business. They are part of the team, they're embedded, and they're really handling everything from strategy to execution.
Yes. The embedded, this, a few things stick out to me there. There's the senior level, having held a very senior level title before, having that credibility is key, and embedded in the business is also just a key enabler of being able to do what I view as a fractional role in the best way possible for both you and your client. I think that's a great definition.
Yeah.
Take me back to when, after your first couple of clients, which I love how they just kind of landed in your lap, that happened for me as well. And I think people in the beginning were saying to me, like, oh, you're gonna, after you start having a couple of conversations, you're just gonna get a couple of clients. And I was like, that is not the way the world works. I don't know, but it did. And I hear more often than not that it does. If you're having the right conversations, if you've niched down the way that you should, and you follow some of the best practices, it does work. So you've had your first couple of clients. How did you continue from there in terms of continuing to get business and like mining your network? Business development, I guess, is where I'm headed.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things. So first of all, I would say when you're a fractional, you really have to divide your time between a couple of things, a couple of really key things. One is working in the business. So that's the actual client work that you're doing. And then the other piece of it is working on the business. So that's, positioning yourself as a thought leader and upskilling and business development. So it's just so important to always be having these conversations. To me, it's something that is integral in running this business. You can't ever let up. I'm always talking to people. And I love it. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. So it's just having these ongoing conversations, and networking is the long pole. I mean, you're just planting lots and lots and lots of seeds, and you never know when one of them is going to grow into a plant for you. So just staying on top of that, being incredibly consistent. So I'm always networking. I'm always going to conferences. I'm always meeting new people. So that's number one. And that's really how things have continued to evolve for me. And one of the things I find about networking, as you said, I mean, the first thing is you're starting with your sort of core network, people that you know, your first degree connections. But as you continue to do it, it snowballs. It's like it grows exponentially. So one conversation with someone really close to you can lead to another conversation that's now one step removed, which leads to another conversation. And it just expands. I mean, it just sort of happens organically as you start getting into it. So that's the first way that things have happened for me. And then the second thing is really optimizing your profile on LinkedIn and posting and engaging. So one of my absolute favorite clients found me cold on LinkedIn. He was doing a search for someone who literally matched exactly my profile. So I came up. He got in touch with me. I'm the kind of person, I sort of have my switch is always turned to yes, why not? Like, let's see what happens. So I had a conversation with him, and it's turned into a fantastic relationship. I've been working with them for over a year now.
That is great. That's exactly the kind of outreach you want on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yes, it was perfect.
Do you have any tips or tricks or things that you have found work well for you in terms of differentiation and standing out?
Hmm. Um, I think there are a couple of things. First of all, I mean, really let your personality shine through in everything that you do. So, just in things as simple as your headshot that you're showing on LinkedIn. Um, that's your calling card. I mean, if you present yourself, if you're someone who's really outgoing and personable and fun, let that shine through in your headshot with the colors that you wear, the poses that you do. So I think that's one thing. Number two, just really creating a beautiful brand around yourself that reflects who you are, what your aesthetic is, what you believe in. I mean, it's just like building a brand in marketing. That's what you're doing. So every single touch point has to be consistent and has to reinforce that brand image that you are going for. And then in terms of your niche, really positioning yourself as a thought leader there. So I work in fitness and health and wellness. So as an example, when earnings calls come out for Peloton or other health and wellness companies, I make sure that I go on to LinkedIn and I'm creating some sort of post around that. Or, if I go to a fitness or health and wellness conference, like I'll come away from that and post about key takeaways and actionable insights. So you give a little bit of content away. And you start to get the attention of brands in that space.
Yeah. Good thought leadership and thinking on LinkedIn. There's debates about it, I feel, every single week. How much should you be posting? Are the posts written by AI? It doesn't really matter to me. I feel like as long as you have a presence that is authentic and
Yes.
smart, it is
Yes.
critical for success in this
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And that was one thing I was going to say too, is it's all about authenticity and, staying true to your brand.
Yeah. And the fun thing is that we get to own the brand because it's us, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
one of the fun parts. And thinking about your journey so far in being a fractional, can you share a little bit about what it is that you're really enjoying and then a little bit around some of the challenges that you have faced?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot that I'm enjoying, so I'm happy to go into that. So, first of all, I love working on lots of different brands. Um, it just keeps me fresh, it keeps things exciting for me. But I also find that I can draw insights from what one brand is doing and apply it in a different way for another brand. I love making those connections. So, again, just working on different brands, different projects. I'm always challenged. I'm always interested. I'm always fresh. And that's a lot of fun. And then the next thing is really just having agency over my time, how and where I spend that time. So I'm a mom, I have two kids. I'm also an adjunct professor at Loyola Marymount University. And so I'm juggling a lot of different things. But the nice thing is that I can time shift. So, I might have a project that I'm working on for a client, but, I need to be at school for a little bit. So I can go to my daughter's school or my events and be there for them. And then I can work on that project, in my own time. So whether that it might be in the evening sometime, it might be on a weekend. But to me, it's worth shifting things around so I can be present in all areas of my life.
Yeah, I feel that very much. It's the mom guilt is like, I feel like that burden is just almost lifted. It's not
Yes.
100% gone. I don't think that's possible as a working woman, but it's been such a great shift in at least in my experience. What about challenges? Have you faced any
Mm.
challenges and have any advice for people that might be either already in the space that they could learn from or are thinking about jumping in?
Yeah, I think in terms of challenges, one thing that really comes to mind is just being sure that you have a pipeline, that you have a next thing to go to. And, that can be scary when you're rolling off of a project and you're like, okay, what's next? Where does this go? And, I think you just have to understand that it's going to come with ups and downs. And again, to prioritize network, to be really consistent with things, and really, trust that you've made this choice and you're going to keep on going. You're going to make it happen. So I think just keeping that sort of positive attitude and continuing to put yourself out there, and, just accepting the fact that there are going to be ups and downs.
Yeah. Okay. Last question before we jump into rapid fire. Thinking back, I'll let you choose your own adventure. You can either go back to the beginning of your fractional journey or go back to the beginning of your career. If you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah. So trust the value that you bring. So in the beginning of when I was just getting started as a fractional, I was still calibrating on things, figuring out my pricing, sort of second guessing my value or my niche or how I position myself. But the truth is that experience, instincts, and leadership, things that I brought to the table, were already there. As I said, as a fractional, you are a seasoned executive. You have a lot of experience under your belt. So you have all of these things in your toolkit. So the sooner that you own that, the sooner you attract the kinds of clients that you want to work with and that align with your worth. So trust the value that you bring.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think it also ties perfectly back to the beginning of the conversation where I wanted you to define fractional, because again, I think it is that senior level experience that will enable all of us to be able to go into those projects, especially as women, and command the value that we are worth. Because I also so often hear of fractionals in general, but also a lot of women that will go into their first project and say, oh, well, I'm going to price it lower because it's my first one. And then the snowball effect starts to happen. And then they still have that first client that is so grossly underpriced that still have to hang on to it and do the great work. But I'm such a firm believer in no one has to undercharge for any of their clients because our skill set is so highly valued. That is just like one thing I want to scream from the rooftop. So I could not agree with that more. I love that. Okay, so I love to end every interview with some rapid fire questions. These are meant to be answered in one word or one sentence or less. So you gave me a lot of really fun ones to ask you. So I love this. This is going to be great. Okay, first job that taught you something valuable.
That was my first job out of college. And I worked for, if you've seen the movie The Devil Wears Prada, that was like my experience. And so I realized exactly what I did not want to be as I became a leader and rose through the ranks.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I want a whole podcast on this story. Yeah. Okay. Once we hang up, I'm getting more about that. What's a fun fact about you that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
I was an elite cyclist and I trained for the Olympics and spent a lot of time training at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs and even competed in the Olympic trials.
What is your favorite business book you've read?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. I actually have it right here, so I'm going to pull it up. This is my favorite. It's called Obsessed, Building a Brand People Love from Day One by Emily Hayward. My absolute favorite book. It is insightful, entertaining, fun to read. I refer back to it all the time. Highly recommend it for anyone in branding and marketing and startups.
Great. Where do you look for inspiration?
Oh, that's a great question. I I look to the younger generation. So I have a teenage daughter, and I learn so much from her. So in my consulting practice, I work on fitness, health and wellness, and beauty. And I'm always learning about new beauty brands through my daughter. And then likewise, through my students at the university, I love to hear what they're excited about, where they're looking for products, what brands excite them. I learn so much from them. So really, I look for inspiration from the younger generation.
Yeah. Oh, my daughter would be in heaven if I worked in a beauty brand. I have three daughters and they would love it, but I don't.
Oh, my daughter steals all of my products, and luckily I get lots of samples and fun things to try, and she takes all of them.
Of course she does. Okay, mentor you'd like to give a shout out to.
Well, again, I can't just pick one. I've had a couple of really phenomenal mentors throughout my career. The first is Gordon Ho, who was my boss at the Walt Disney Company. So the first job that I had. And I actually got that job through networking with Gordon. We were both alumni of the Kellogg School of Management. And he really taught me to pay it forward. And I've really tried to follow in his path. So Gordon Ho for sure. And then I had an amazing boss at the Beachbody Company, Suzanne Blankenship, who taught me all about executive presence and brand marketing. And they've both been fantastic mentors to me.
If you could instantly master one skill or hobby, what would it be? I'm very interested in this one.
Okay. Well, I took French all through high school and college, and I absolutely love everything French and French culture and French language. But even with all of those years of studying, I'm not completely fluent. So I wish that I could just like snap a finger and be 100% fluent in French.
That would be nice. If your career was a movie title, what would it be?
Adventures in Resilience.
Okay. Finally, what is the most adventurous thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, I love food, and I will try almost anything at least once. So I have eaten scorpion, ants, crickets. I think that's pretty adventurous.
I'd say that's very adventurous. I don't think I would eat scorpion, and I'm pretty adventurous, but
look, I survived. I'm still here. No worse for the wear.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you are still here, and I'm glad that you came on today. Thank you so much for giving me the time. I know that you are very busy and very in demand. So I'm so glad that we connected after that webinar. That was great. That was just, I feel like magical timing. So thank you for sharing your insights. I'm sure all of our listeners will have learned so much. If they want to connect with you or if they want to learn more, how can they do that?
So find me on LinkedIn. It's Erika Weiss, ErikaWeiss. And you can find me there, connect with me. I have a link to my website on my LinkedIn profile. So yeah,
Great.
Reach out.
Awesome. I will also link to it in the show notes. So thank you again so much. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
As always, please remember to follow, like, comment, and share. And don't forget to head over to femalefractionals.com for a full transcript of the show and links to everything we talked about during our conversation. Thanks for listening.